It's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. Before we begin today's program, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. We lost a member of our team this past week. David Dutil was a Thomas College student. He was our intern in work study for a little over 2 years, and we lost him this past week. So if I could have a moment of silence in his memory, I'd be grateful. Thank you. The governor of our great state of Maine, as he helps us move our state forward so that we can leave a legacy to our children, a place where they want to live, where they want to raise their children. Governor Paul Richard LePage.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. She gave a nice speech, and it's nice to be here. We'll see you later. You know, state government needs to partner with the private sector. It's that simple. And once we have a partnership and we listen to your needs, we implement the rules, regulations, and what makes it workable, then our job is to get out of the way. It's that simple. It's not complicated. I would say my administration has had modest success in the legislature, with the legislature. Very modest success. In fact, in the last year, we've had zero success. And it's very simple. If you speak the truth, you will be condemned. As I speak to you right now, the legislature is trying to impeach me. In the Constitution, it says to impeach someone, you have to have high crimes or misdemeanors. I have done neither. It's whether you like me or don't like me is the issue today. So, as we move forward, I am going to continue forever long I have as your governor to move my agenda. I am not politically correct, and if I was, you wouldn't be listening to me. It's that simple. I've learned one thing about government. It's not much different than business. I spent many, many years in business going into a troubled company and trying to fix it. And you know where the answers are in a troubled company? Inside the walls of the company. It always is. The problem with Maine is in the walls of Augusta. I'm going to continue my mission every single week until the next election. I am going to tell the people of Maine what I believe is needed to make us prosperous. We need to continue to address welfare and strengthen the safety net. What I mean by that is it's not an entitlement. You have to earn it. How do you earn it? You get your skill sets up to a point where you can carry on, maintain, and be a producer to the state. Very simple. It's skills. Get the work skills you need to prosper. Now, I know I get criticized all the time in the newspaper, but you wouldn't believe the number of letters and emails I get from people who have taken it to heart and are getting off welfare. I have a young lady in Farmington that is just ecstatic. She works at Franklin Memorial, and she's just absolutely ecstatic. After going through a devastating divorce, she lost her family, never had a job, she's a stay-at-home mom, never thought she could ever do it on her own. 2 little kids, she's off all the programs. Excited. So it can be done. Second, eliminating the income tax. Third, combating the heroin pandemic. I started on this mission in March of 2014 that we needed more DEA agents. Since that time, 400 people have died from overdose. Several more have been shot or killed through a bad deal in heroin, whether it was someone from out of state killing them or the police. reducing our energy costs. You would think it's a no-brainer, but it is so hard to get done because Maine is the only state I know that have picked the winners and losers in energy. And the other one that I think is absolutely critical for us to be a successful and prosperous state is we need to lower the age of our state. And how do you do that? Is you address the biggest debt in this nation, student loans. And if you do that, they'll flock here in droves, and I'll explain how we can do it. It's already starting this month. And much of what I'm telling you, while the legislature should be knee-high working with us, they have not been part of the process. And that, I say, is your fault, not my fault. My job as a governor is to bring vision. The job of the legislature is to put the laws and regulations in place, and you folks, the electorate, is responsible for having oversight over the legislature and making sure that they do what they're supposed to be doing. I'm not so sure that's happening, at least to the extent that it should. When I became governor, Maine was the number one welfare state in the nation. After 5 years of hard work and enormous criticism from the daily press, I mean, you all know how I feel about the press. They're so bad that I don't even trust the obituaries. And I'll tell you, it's not just here, it's around the nation. And I'm not so sure that they're deliberately biased. It's a built-in bias from their educational, how they learn. So, we've gone from number one in the nation to number 3. We are an absolute outlier. Let me explain. In 2011, we were spending $10,000 per citizen on welfare. We are down to $6,700 per resident, per citizen on welfare. That took us from number 1 to number 3. To become 25th, middle of the pack, to become average, I have to get us down to $2,500. That's how big an outlier we are in the country. We are just absolutely not in tune with what's happening in welfare. 5 of the 6 top welfare states in the nation, 5 out of 6, are New England states. Number 2 is Vermont. Number 1 now is D.C. The capital of our nation is the poorest and the highest welfare in the nation. It's not the poorest. I take that back. It's the highest welfare in the nation. It's really an embarrassment. What we're trying to do is very simple. Have able-bodied people, able-bodied now, and don't throw me out with disabilities and old, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 19 to 50 able-bodied people need to attempt to look for work before they could qualify for welfare. I didn't say they have to go to work. I said they have to attempt to find a job. Secondly, no TANF spending on tobacco, liquor, gambling, lotteries, tattoos, bail, travel services, sending money to foreign countries through Western Union, and my favorite, you can't use your EBT card at strip joints. That's all we're trying to do. I mean, to me, it's really not demanding, asking too much. 5 years. 5-year limitation for able-bodied people. At that time, I'll buy them a lobster roll, and a bus ticket, and they can start over in a new state. Because I believe 5 years, if you're really interested in working, we can get you to work in 5 years. We can get you to qualify to work. If you're going to work and you still need help, I'm all in. I'm first in the line to help, but you gotta make an effort. No EBT cards in smoke shops. We have a $330 million budget for EBT cards. The money is charged, is loaded on the card on the 9th of the month, made available at midnight. Made available at midnight. And between midnight and 3 a.m. on the 10th of the month, 50% of the money that's been loaded is gone. 50%. Even Hannaford is not open at 3 a.m. So it's not baby formula. General assistance, meaning TANF, SNAP, and SSI, should not be given to non-citizens of the United States of America. I just don't believe that we have enough. We can't even pay our own, take care of our own. We have 4,200 people on a wait list that qualify for services in the state of Maine, which in the last budget, we cleaned it off. I had the wait list gone. Income tax dropped to 5.75%, and the legislature decided we could do with a little bit of a wait list. So they created a wait list of 3,000 people. These are disabled, mentally ill, and elderly folks in our state who qualify for services. They are not getting them. And the money went to sanctuary cities and education. And I could talk about education later if you would like, but it's not a topic today. 3,000 people are still waiting for services. A waiver to eliminate junk food on SNAP. That's all. Just eliminate junk food. We have a store in Maine. The son of the owner is a technology junkie, so he created a program, put on the cash register, and every time a bag of chips comes up, an equivalent dollar amount is, or nutritional food is brought up. So when he cashes out, the ticket's got what they bought and what they should have bought. It's funniest. It's really, really funny. It's great. And if we did that all over, and people started reading it, they'd start getting it about the obesity and the problems that we're facing in our country. And like the state of Florida, we want to drug test people on welfare who have had drug problems in the past. So that's where we're going on the welfare side. Work towards eliminating the income tax. Here again, I blame a lot of people for being a little bit narrow-minded and looking at today instead of looking at the next 5 or 10 years. The income tax is not, it doesn't take rocket science to figure it out. I'll tell you how I came up with my formula. I took the 10 worst states, in which we're number 8, and the 10 best states. And I put them side by side and look at the common denominators. All of the top 10 states either have no income tax at all or it's below 4%. That's one of the keys. I tried to get it at 5.75%. Just so you know, there's 802,000 people in the state of Maine who pay income tax. 802,000 people pay $1 billion. My program was get that to 0 and increase the sales tax by 1 point, and I'll tell you why. Between the months, between May 31st and Labor Day last year, 36 million people came to our state. In the summer months, we are the richest state in America. and we have we are the #1 state in America with second home ownership, and the highest value of our homes in Maine are second homes, not first homes, second homes. And you go up and down the coast, and you can buy houses for millions of dollars. We bought a home in Florida, we have a home in Maine. They both paid about the same thing, $200,000, give or take. In Florida, taxes, my property tax is $1,500. In Maine, they're $4,000. My brother has a home in New Hampshire, Dover. My foster brother has a home in Dover, New Hampshire. He has a home that's valued about $215,000. He's paying $2,100 in taxes. So anybody that tells you that New Hampshire is more expensive, it isn't. What happens in Maine is we have allowed assessment to get out of control. If you look at, we have tons of examples of commercial properties that have been way overtaxed. In fact, I've gone to court a couple times and we won both cases on overvaluing properties. So we have our problem. But the other thing that we have is we allow ourselves to be taken every day. I'll give you an example. Every single community in Maine right now is crying about more revenue sharing, more revenue sharing, more revenue sharing. Our taxes are too high. In the last 20 years, we have a program called Lands for Maine's Future. We are approaching $500 million of properties, either property we've taken off the tax rolls, and then you come to Augusta and ask us to sell bonds to pay for the land you're taking off the tax rolls. And then you want the state government to keep your property taxes low. Doesn't work. The math doesn't work. So we need to continue to fight this battle. We've gone from 8.5% to 7.15%. We've gone from the top, gone from the worst state in the country to number 48 in tax friendliness. And then people in the guess, oh yeah, he's made a little improvement in the income tax, but look at our business climate. Yes, look at your business climate. They're leaving in droves. We can't attract people. You know, people say, the chairman of Airbus, when I called them, they're going to Alabama, I tried to say, hey, look, we got a naval station given to us by the federal government. We got all this runway, we have, for testing your airplanes, we have all these hangars. I'm not one that likes to give anything for $1, but $2 or $3, I'd have been willing to bring them in. They would have spent $200 million in Maine, and they decided to go to Alabama for $600 million investment. But the difference is this. Their energy cost was 4.2 cents fixed for 5 years. We're at 15 cents. You go to industrial rate, you might be able to get it to between 9.5 and 11 cents. So the income tax, we can reduce the income tax, and we can increase the sales tax and go to a consumption-based tax. People will say, well, the elderly are going to get hurt and the poor are going to get hurt. No, our plan called for giving them a credit. Those who qualified for the safety net get a credit for excess sales tax. In sales tax, you have a decision tree to make. You go up a decision tree, do I buy, don't buy. Income tax, you have no such choice. Once it gets in, it's in. Now, I've battled with the state saying, I just said, let's have the debate. Let's have a dialogue about the income tax. Let the Maine people weigh in on whether or not they want it, and they said, no way. They said, no way. So I said, okay, from now on, the 127th has to get 2/3 vote of both houses to make sure we get the majority of the people in the legislature that approve on bills. Because it's the only way you can hold them accountable. Maine Public Broadcasting has been trying to get into the legislature for 5 years to televise the sessions of the House and the Senate and the appropriations so you could see it on television on local cable broadcasting. They've said no. They have said no numerous times. I just met a couple of weeks ago with the president of NPBN. How do we do it? I said, we got to take it to the people. We're going to have to take it to the people because they're in Augusta, they're in a bubble, they hide. The only person, there's one person elected statewide in the state of Maine, is your governor. He gets all the scrutiny in the world. And frankly, I don't mind it. Whether it's good or bad, at least I'm telling the truth. And that's one thing they don't criticize me, well, the Democrats will, but it's very hard for them to criticize me of lying when they get the facts. So, we need to continue to battle the income tax front. We don't need an income tax. I had a balanced budget. I paid off every single one on a wait list. And one senator, a very powerful senator, said to me, oh, the 4,200 people we're talking about, we'll chip away at it. We'll chip away at it. Because they had other priorities. It's not a matter of money, it's a matter of priorities. What do you prioritize? We have hundreds, and I mean hundreds of organizations in the state of Maine that live because we have a state government who funds them. And then at election time, they scurry around this state and they're full-time activists. But the rest of the year, they really not do a whole lot. We have two right now that just last week, this drug bill, they wanted the contracts to go to two specific companies. One they named by name in law, which is the first time that's happened in Maine, and the other one they named by services that they would provide, and they defined them in the law without telling the name. And I exposed it, and it disappeared overnight. The next morning, they were both gone. And you would not believe that there are zero outcomes for the it was $700,000 for one and another million, so about $1.7 million with zero outcomes over the last decade. That's routine. You said last summer I had a Christmas tree. I put a lot of names on the Christmas tree. I can go back and show you exactly how much money that Christmas tree went for and what each picture had an amount behind it for a special little backroom deal. One of them was money to her sister. That's how bad it is. So, am I out there to get fraud and corruption? You got it. Income tax not needed. We need a nimble, efficient government. We don't need an overbloated, high-cost government. So the income tax, I will continue to fight that battle. The next one, heroin. Heroin and prescription drugs in the state of Maine. In March of 2014, as I said, I asked to have more DEA agents. Since then, 400 people have died. 400 people have died since then. In 2015, over 250. Since I've been governor, it's been going this way. That's by heroin. But it's not just heroin. Alcohol, tobacco, same thing. Tobacco is the worst. So we need to address those problems. Mary Mayu, Commissioner Mayu in DHHS has done a marvelous job. We now have, our prescription monitoring system is now mandatory for physicians who issue opiates prescriptions. It used to be voluntary. We had about 1/3 of the doctors on board, and the problem with that is you can monitor the drugs that they prescribe, but 2/3 of the doctors weren't part of it. Since we've made it mandatory, folks, since we've made it mandatory, 50% of the prescribing of opiates has disappeared. We've cut it in half. That's the good news. The bad news, it's been replaced by heroin from out of state. It's horrible. And right now, the penalties for heroin trafficking is slap on the hand. If it was, I believe in capital punishment. If it was me, and I had the right to do whatever, I would inject the traffickers with their own medicine. Because they're killing our people. Right now, we are losing 5 people a week to heroin, and we're having 15 babies born a week addicted to heroin or opiates. 15, I'm sorry, it's 3 per day. It's more like 20 a week on babies. I made a comment a couple weeks ago, and I was thinking at the time I made the comment of the 6-year-old girl in Augusta who lost her mom Christmas Eve. I was thinking of the little baby that was dropped by a mother who was, 2-year-old baby that she dropped because she was flying high on heroin. That's what I was thinking of. And I don't care what color they are, if they're dealing trafficking in drugs in this state, they need to be taken off the streets. We need to get them off the streets. Energy costs were the 12th highest in the country. I remember telling the chairman of Airbus, he said, "How's your energy costs?" I said, "We're the cheapest in New England." That is also true. But we're the 12th highest in America. This is a false, and an artificial problem. The reason we're 12th in the highest in the country is our portfolio, 64% of our energy portfolio is renewable energy. We are the cleanest. Our emissions right now are at 1982 levels. We are one of the cleanest states in the country. And the reason we're not at 1900 levels is because the winds go from the west to the east. We're not generating the pollution. We're inheriting the pollution. It's just the way the winds blow. I'm trying to get the Attorney General to sue all the other states because they have the numbers in Washington and we don't. We're a rural state. And I meant to say this too about taxes. The 50 states, if you take the average income tax, barring those who have no income tax, is 6%. That's the average. For rural states like Maine, it's 5.1%. For New England, it's 5.6%. Believe it or not, Massachusetts is only 5.2. Taxachusetts is now kicking our, you-know-what. See, I'm getting good. So now, so with that, what I'd like to do is I've given you a whole lot of information, but I would like to sit back and listen to you for a while and try to answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions, please ask them. And yes, Don.
Oh, I have a question. You talk about energy costs. What can we do to help get energy costs lower?
Okay, great question. I'll give you the $20 later.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, how can we help you with energy costs? Well, this is the facts. The state of Maine has a limitation on all energy sources with the exception of wind and solar. And Rick Perry, who comes from a very warm state, told me the one advantage wind has, it's better than solar. Those are the two worst. They're very expensive. Not that they're not good and clean. That's not the issue. The issue is hydro, for instance. Hydro is a baseline energy. It flows all day long, 24/7. You can buy it very inexpensively in Quebec, but we cannot buy it because we have a 100 megawatt limitation on all resources of energy with the exception of wind and solar. So I can't buy it. I can buy 99 megawatts, it's green. I buy 101, it's brown. Natural gas. We've asked the people to push their legislators, they pushed the legislators, and we've gotten hundreds of miles of pipe in the ground. Now, I am working with Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine are working together in a coalition to bring gas, more capacity of gas to Maine. This will happen, it's in the process, it will happen next year. By 17, we will have an abundance of natural gas. But the energy on your electricity, we need to get the legislature to repeal the 100 megawatt limitation, allow the free market to come in. And I will tell you, there are phenomenal deals out there. You know, we have Seabrook Energy, and we get Point LePage, New Brunswick. We're in the middle of 2 nuclear power plants, and we are not allowed to buy the power at 3 cents. So we need to, that's what you can do. What you can all do to deal with all 5 of these issues is push your legislators. Hold them accountable. They are not telling you what's going on. Hold them accountable. Everybody holds me accountable, whether I did it or didn't do it. Yes, Charlie?
What is this article with NERA and CMP wanting to get back into the generator?
Well, I'll tell you something. Yeah, they do, and they should, and it's the biggest mistake we ever made to take them out, because what they've done, in effect, is their parent company, like Iberdrola or Nemera, just make up, they just incorporate new companies with different names, and they do the producing. Deregulation in Maine was a disaster. This is why. We took the generation part over here, and we created all these new entities and this new overhead that they're going to experiment with, and we gave CMP and Nemera the cream of the crop, the distribution. And let me tell you, we are one of the highest distribution costs in America. So I think we put them back in, and we say, this is what we want, single digits energy. And we're not gonna, what we ought to do is bring in more utility companies to compete, not separate what they generate. We just say the whole thing, boom. Do you know that in the state of Maine, Waterville could become a utility if they chose to, and they would be competing with Central Maine Power? But we didn't do it that way. I remember when I was with Martin's, we had an energy company, and we were buying wholesale prices. We were in the single digits. People can do that. Anyone else? Charlie again, and then...
Just one other thing on the income tax.
Yeah.
You mentioned what was out there on lowering the tax.
Oh, yeah. There are 2. We are putting together a referendum, we're collecting names to put it on a ballot. Despite what the legislature says, I think the Maine people should have a say in their income tax. What it calls for, it's a referendum to call to reduce the income tax to 4% over 4 years. Easily done. Believe me, it's easily done. There's competing measures out there, but it's going to be out there. I was hoping it would be there in 16. It may not be, and strategically, it may be smarter to wait till 17 because it's an off year, and then you get only those that really want to vote, and you have more success. But along with that, I'm trying to lower the income tax. Lowering the income tax gives everybody an increase. There's a competing measure of raising the minimum wage. And I'll tell you, it's devastating. It's going to be there in November. Raising the minimum wage, the way they're planning to do it, is going to put us back 25 years. It's devastating. It's going to bring us up to $12 in 4 years, highest in the nation. You can't attract people if you're the highest minimum wage. Let me tell you what's happening. Right now, Portland increased their minimum wage to $10.10. They're violating federal law. Now it's going to be coming out shortly. They got to pay all the money back to people. All the money that's been paid is going to be paid back to the employers since January 1. It's going to be a mess. But this is the problem. In the state of Maine, people 25 and below, median income is $24,000. 65 and above, median income is $35,000. Because most people 65 or over who have a little nest egg boogie. They boogie. They talk with their feet and they go to where they're not taxed. We have a debt tax and we have an income tax. If we got rid of the debt tax, which is only 1 of 9 states that have it, if we got rid of the estate tax, we would be so far ahead. A lot of the people that come here in the summer may stay here for more than 6 months less a day. Many elderly that retire would go to Florida. I have a house in Florida. I would love nothing more to go there in January, February when I retire. Come back in March, maybe 15th of March, maybe even April 1st when it gets a little warmer. But it's only 2 or 3 months versus 6 months in a day. I would have to move all of my assets out of the state, all my capital assets, except for a secondary home. So that's the thing that I'm saying. I think increasing minimum wage gives you an hourly rate, a little higher hourly rate. Getting rid of the income tax is the highest, fastest way to give the largest wage increase in the state of Maine. Yes, ma'am.
Some believe that Maine is positioned well for population growth. Some say due to global warming because, Maine has a lot of resources and whatnot. What's your outlook on population growth and how might that impact economic development and all the things you're talking about?
I didn't talk about student loans, I'm sorry. Let me talk about that real quick, because that's the answer. We are the oldest state in the union, 44, median age 44. Youngest state in the union is Utah at 28, almost 29, median age. In order for us to have a population growth, we have to bring in people from other states to this state, because just around this room, there's a lot of you aren't going to be making babies in the near future. I know it doesn't sound right, but it's a fact. So what I want to do, and there's already a program started this January, FAME, Finance Authority of Maine, and the Alphon Foundation team together, and they're going to refinance or take all the student loans, and they're going to consolidate. And they're going to go, I think the highest rate they're telling me is going to be 3.5. So they're going to work with local banks, they're going to try to consolidate loans. And then Alphon Center is going to come in, and if you study in a STEM education, which is, science, technology, engineering, and math, on the 5th anniversary of you working in Maine, they're going to pay off 50% of the balance of your loans. And on the 10th anniversary, they're going to pay off, if there's anything left, they're going to pay it off. What I'm trying to do is get the legislature to simply say this, $10 million, put it into FAME to enhance the pot, and then say this, for every employer who hires a person between the ages, a person who has student loans, and I don't care what age, but whether they're traditional or non-traditional students is what I mean. You hire them and you pay off student loan, we will give you dollar for dollar credit on your income tax. Whether you're an LLC or a C, whether you're an S. For nonprofits, what I want to do is give the person the ability to deduct their student loans against their income tax until it's gone. So that's how I think you lower the age. You attract people to Maine. They may not get started out with the highest pay, but I'll tell you, if you're a 28-year-old couple in Portland, he's a physician's assistant at Maine Medical, 28 years old, his wife, master's of physical therapy, worked at Maine Medical. They carry $168,000 in student loans. They have to, so that's $3,000 a month. They have to live in an apartment in Portland or in the vicinity because they don't have the down payment for a house. They would like to buy a house. Their rent's $1,500. So now they got $4,500. We're deducting all this income tax, so they don't have a whole lot left. And they're trying to save. And she says to me, help me, I want to start a family. They want to start a family. They want to live in Maine. And now she's saying, I am from Maine, I want to live in Maine, my husband's not from Maine, and he's looking now because he can make more money in another state. It's all about money at that age. So that's the problem. So I'm trying to keep these people here. And there's a selfish reason for that. Many of you know my son and daughter. I want them to stay in Maine, so I don't have to fly to go see grandchildren someday. Yes.
Some of the things that affect our economy are really controlled at the federal level. And I've been concerned about NAFTA and the proposed TPP. Can you comment on that, how that affects Maine?
Yeah, it affects Maine deeply, deeply. For instance, NAFTA. Recently, Madison Paper and Verso filed suit in the federal government because of their saying that Canadian paper is being brought over cheaper because of subsidies over in Canada. Verso, to me, and they know what I've already told them, they're not a very good employer in Maine. What they did in Bucksport was sinful. What they're doing in Jay right now is sinful. We had a guy, and the reason I say that is I remember the days when we had a guy, Chainsaw Dunlap, came to Maine, and that's who they are. So I'm not very proud of them. Madison, good company, but they also have a Finnish ownership. So they're complaining that their American paper is being affected by Catalyst and by J.D. Irving. J.D. Irving, JD, the Wood Products Company, has 1 million acres in Maine. They have over 1,200 employees. Catalyst has another 900 employees in Maine, so we're 2,100 employees, and they're growing, where Madison is fixed because of the products they sell, and Verso will not be here much longer. I just don't see how they can make it. Their numbers don't work. So NAFTA, what they did in the infamous brilliance of our federal government. See, I'm getting good again. I was going to say something else. In their brilliance, they put a 20% tariff on J.D. Irving and Catalyst, which means their capital investment is going this way. So I agree with you. It's not good. They're not good because they're political. They're not embedded in good business practices. And that's the problem with these international organizations in trade. Federal government, to me, if you haven't heard, we don't have a great relationship either. Because this particular administration, I'm not going to talk about, this is the only one I've lived through, so I can't say the federal government overall, but this administration is retaliatory if you disagree. We're having lawsuits right now with EPA, lawsuits with DHHS. every time I turn around, we're forced into lawsuits. Right now, they're saying to me that you cannot have a psychiatrist in Maine treating a civil patient and a forensic patient at the same time. The only state they've done that to, and we're in lawsuit. This lawsuit may go on for a year, and we're $30 million is at stake. $30 million, because we draw down what is called dish funds for their share of mental illness, and now they're saying, well, you got to have separate psychiatrists, so we have to go out and find psychiatrists for civil patients and for forensic patients. Believe me, they're very in enormous shortage. So it's just a catch-22. These are the type of things that happen, and it's just not right. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're a Democrat or Republican. This is not what this is about. This is about trying to change an ideology without going through the Congress. This is what we're talking about. This administration violates Congress every day, and we feel the brunt of it. Anyone else? Oh, you gotta have more. Am I that bored? Yes, sir.
Why did you back down, apologize? You made a remark about white girls.
I apologize to the white women of America, and I don't apologize for drug dealers.
I was a Boston cab driver for many years, and there they called them pimps. Here you call them dealers.
Well, I got an email, and I don't know if I should share it, but I will. No, I'm not. If I do, they're gonna fire me, and I don't wanna do that. I got some great emails, believe me. And we've had over 200 and some odd calls in the office, and it's running about 80-20. 80 in favor of not apologizing, 20 saying I'm a bad person. Which is about this, the country is a 70-30 nation still, and so I'm not surprised. Anyone else?
Well, the thing is, a vice is a vice, wherever.
Yeah. It don't make a difference what color your skin. If you're a drug trafficker in this state and you're killing our babies and our people, you need to go away. And I'll tell you, there's a bill, I put up a bill to make trafficking in opiates not a C felony, but an A felony. And if we had the death penalty, that means they would be put to sleep with their own medicine.
Getting the hook.
Time's up.
Thank you, Governor. On behalf of Thomas College and the Mid-Maine Chamber, that's a little gift for you.
I think it's the third one.
Yeah, you got a few of those. Yeah, we bought a lot.